Hey guys, YouTuber 100 here. Alright, and now continuing with my reviews for my picks for the top 10 best live action Disney movies. Now getting into the top 5. Now here I am with my review for number 5, which is Pirates of the Caribbean: The Curse of the Black Pearl. So I know I did talk a little bit of crap about the Pirates of the Caribbean movies in the video when I made the announcement that I was doing this countdown. Just because, there are, like I said in that video, there are just people that really just want to jerk off to these films and just really say that these are the best things Disney has ever created, when that's not the case at all. Because, I mean, Disney has done, better projects than these movies. And, yeah, like I said, I mean, this film, yeah, this is probably one of their best works, but the sequels really are not. I mean, like I said before, the sequels really didn't turn out that well. I mean, I did like the second movie, Dead Man's Chest, but then, at World's End, I really didn't really like that one very much. I just felt like it was really hard to follow, and I really felt that it, kind of did, mess up the story a little bit. It from the previous two films, and it just kind of did, kind of, yeah, it just really got really complicated and just kind of just messed things up a little bit. And then, yeah, I didn't watch, On Stranger Tides, and I haven't seen the new film yet either. Or Dead Man Tells No Tales. So yeah, I really stopped watching these films at the third movie because I really felt that at the third film, that's when they really should have ended. Because yeah, with On Stranger Tides and Dead Man Tell No Tales, those two are just really pointless sequels, and I really don't see why they are continuing the franchise. I mean, especially with this film, The Curse of the Black Pearl was released back in 2003, and right now in 2017 they're still making new films with Dead Men Tell No Tales. Like this franchise has now been going on for 14 years, and they're still making movies out of it, which really shouldn't really be done anymore. Because yeah, like I just said, with On Stranger Tides and Dead Men Tell No Tales, they were just really pointless. And plus, these two films really are standalone movies and really not really in much connection with the first three films at all. So I really don't see why they're still making Pirates of the Caribbean movies now. Yeah, I just really hope that Dead Men Tell No Tales is really the last Pirates of the Caribbean movie, because it's just really not. There's really no reason to continue with the franchise anymore. But yeah, I'm not here to talk about that. I'm here to talk about Curse of the Black Pearl. And yeah, The Curse of the Black Pearl, yeah, it was a pretty great movie. I mean, it really was a lot darker than a lot of the other Disney films. Especially this was the first Disney film that I can really remember that was rated PG-13. So yeah, it just kind of showed how dark this movie really was going to be compared to a lot of the other Disney films, especially ones that were coming out at the time. Just yeah, it just was it really was kind of a different turn for Disney films, and yeah, the idea for this movie was done really well. I mean, yeah, of course, these movies were really based on the ride at Walt Disney parks, like Disneyland and Disney World and stuff. Yeah, they of course had Pirates of the Caribbean ride for many years, and they finally decided to make a movie of it. And yeah, this movie was a really big hit. I mean, people really did love it, and yeah, it really did become one of the most marketable franchises and profitable franchises in all of Disney, and I guess that's why they really do continue to make the sequels. But and yeah, I mean, yeah, this movie, yeah, this was a great film. I mean, yeah, it did really have a good plot to it, and yeah, it really did have a really cool idea with how the crew of the Black Pearl really does. They are immortal, and then they become corpses is in the moonlight, and it really was pretty awesome to see with the Interceptor crew and the Dauntless crew fighting with the skeletons and corpses on the Black Pearl. So yeah, that was really awesome to see in this movie. those scenes really are like the big highlight of this film. I mean, yeah, those are like really cool scenes, but yeah, we still do have like a lot of really good characters. I mean, yeah, there's like good acting from people like Johnny Depp, Orlando Bloom, Keira Knightley, Jeffrey Rush, and yeah, list goes on. I mean, yeah, they really do deliver some great performances, and yeah, Johnny Depp, of course, as Captain Jack Sparrow, he's just like a legendary. This is just a legendary role. I mean, yeah, I mean, people just love Johnny Depp as Captain Jack Sparrow, and yeah, he does great. I mean, he can get a lot of comedic moments with this, and yeah, just get a lot of laughs out of people, and yeah, he is just really good in the role. Yeah, yeah, and yeah, I guess as like some of you may know, like with like the success of this film, Disney also tried to do the same thing with the Haunted Mansion, since that was another one of the park's big rides. But yeah, we all know how that one turned out. So yeah, maybe like grading movies out of all the just isn't meant for all of the Disney park rides. So, but yeah, this is of course like the one that is done right. And yeah, Pirates of the Caribbean, Curse of the Black Pearl, definitely like a real great movie. I mean, yeah, I'm just yeah, really like good stuff. Like it's good to see the pirates in this film, and stuff. Yeah, and this film definitely does have like better like pirates quality is to it than like Muppet Treasure Island did. Yeah, Muppet Treasure Island, like I said, it was like, as you all know, this was like more of a spoof of Treasure Island, and like a parody of it with the Muppets. So yeah, I guess it really was not meant to be really taken that seriously. But yeah, this is the film that really is like taking pirates seriously, and yeah, it's done really well. So yeah, I haven't really like rode on the Pirates of the Caribbean ride in a really long time. I only did it like when I was really really young. So yeah, I'm not really sure like how close this really follows the ride. So yeah, I really will. So you're not going to really be hearing me really compare this to the ride very much. But yeah, for as a film goes, this film it is like really really great. And yeah, just like a lot of other people, I really do love this film. I would probably give this film 3.75 stars out of 4. I mean, it is just like a really great film with a lot of really great acting and a lot of really good action fighting scenes. Just, yeah, and yeah, just some really awesome visuals for this movie. It is just like a really great film. Alright, so yeah, this movie. So yeah, I'm probably gonna need spend a while talking about this movie because I mean this movie is about 2.5 hours long. So yeah, not wasting any time. Let me just get right into it. Alright, so the movie starts off like in the early 18th century, and it shows like Governor Weatherby Swan along with his daughter Elizabeth and James Norrington, who was the lieutenant on the ship. They're like sailing to Port Royal, and then they eventually like discover there's like an unconscious boy in the water, and they also once they recover the boy, they also discover a shipwreck, and then the boy just then like briefly regains consciousness, and he tells Elizabeth his name is Wilt Turner, but then he just like passed out right away again. And Elizabeth also discovered that there was like a golden pirate medallion around his neck. Again, and, and Elizabeth then just ended up like seeing like a real dark ghost ship that just ended up like vanishing right into the fog. Yeah, and then cut to 8 years later, and yeah, it's just showing now that Elizabeth is like she is fully grown now, and it showed also that Norrington ended up like being promoted to being Commodore aboard the ship. And then eventually it shows then Captain Jack Sparrow then arrived at the Port Royal. And his plan was to commandeer a ship. Yep. But then, like later on, like Commodore ended up like proposing to Elizabeth, but like Elizabeth was like wearing a corset, and then like she just ended up because of the corset fainting, and she just fell into the sea. Yeah, and then like the medallion in, that she's been keeping this whole time ended up like being activated, and then like nobody else really knew how to swim, so then Jack just then like jumped into the water and ended up saving Elizabeth and bringing her back up to the surface. But then like Norrington then like recognized who he was, because yeah, Jack was just saying that his like he was trying to pose as somebody else, but then yeah, Norrington then discovered that he was actually Captain Jack Sparrow. And then they attempted to try to arrest him, but then like after like they were trying to cuff him up, Jack then like just was like holding Elizabeth hostage in order to escape, and then yeah, once they gave Jack back like his weapons and stuff, he then like made a run for it. But then like he ended up being encountered by Will, and Will was now like a really skilled swordsman, along with now he was the crew's blacksmith. Yeah. And then yeah, Jack and Will ended up like just dueling with each other, but eventually like Jack eventually like was knocked unconscious, and he ended up like being captured by the crew and just being imprisoned in the ship. Yeah. Yeah. And then later on that night, I then showed then the Black Pearl arriving, and the Black Pearl was actually the ship that Elizabeth did see as a child. Yeah. And then the Black Pearl just ended up arriving at Port Royal and launching an attack, and then they were trying to search for the medallion. And Elizabeth eventually ended up getting captured by the Black Pearl crew, and then they bring her aboard their ship, where she then meets Captain Barbosa, and she's like trying to negotiate it with him. And then like Elizabeth was just then telling Barbosa that her name is actually Elizabeth Turner, to just keep them from finding out that she is actually the daughter of the governor. And then like they're of course like we're trying to get the medallion, and like Elizabeth was threatening to drop it, but then then and Barbosa just like was like giving Elizabeth a deal, and then that's when Elizabeth then handed the medallion over, and then but then after that they then just took Elizabeth in as their prisoner. And Will then like discovered that Elizabeth had been taken away by the Black Pearl, and yeah, then Will the next day was like trying to talk to Norrington and the governor to figure out how to save Elizabeth, and like they knew that Jack Sparrow did know about the Black Pearl, so then Will went to Jack and then freed him to save Elizabeth. And yeah, Jack eventually also like discovered who Will was. He learned his real name, and so then Jack like remembered about Will's father, who was named Bootstrap Turner. Well, he was nicknamed Bootstrap, yeah. And yeah, Jack just like was telling Will that his father was also a pirate, and he just told him that his father was thrown overboard, or while he was tied to a cannon. Yeah. And eventually, then just Jack and Will then just commandeered the interceptor ship, and then they headed for Tortunga. Is that how it said? To recruit their own ship crew to save Elizabeth. And eventually, like on the Black Pearl, Elizabeth like discovered that Barbosa's crew actually has like they're under a curse because they took like the treasure that was cursed, like the cursed treasure of Cortez from Isle de Muerta, is that how it's said? And then, like, they just then were forced then to go under the curse of the undead. And yeah, it then, like, eventually shows that in the moonlight, like, the Black Pearl crew then just ends up, like, decomposing and can just appearing as some heavily decomposed corpses. And in order to lift the curse, they need to return all the 882 of the gold pieces, he says, and 8 of them have to be with the blood of the owner of the pieces. And yeah, because they think Elizabeth, last name is Turner, she was the daughter of Bootstrap, and the medallion she has is her final piece to free them from the curse. And eventually Jackin will eventually come across Jack's friend Gibbs, and Gibbs just was like telling Will later on that Jack used to be the captain of the Black Pearl, but he eventually like was mutinied from the ship and marooned by Barbosa. And eventually they then arrived at Mirta, and Will and Jack then just like saw Barbosa was trying to sacrifice Elizabeth's blood with the gold piece, and but then showed like they were still under the curse. And then like they eventually like found out that Elizabeth was not the daughter of Bootstrap Turner, and then they found Will, and then they figured out that he was Bootstrap's son. And Will ended up like saving Elizabeth, and he brought her to the Interceptor, but Jack ended up like being captured by the Black Pearl crew, and then he just ended up being locked in the brig. And eventually then the Black Pearl just ended up pursuing the Interceptor. And then yeah, the both crews like were in a battle with each other, but eventually like the Interceptor ship ended up like being destroyed and the crew was taken hostage. And later on, like, Will then just tried to make a deal with Barbosa to release Elizabeth in exchange for his blood. But then, like, in the agreement, like, Barbosa just like exploited a loophole and just ended up marooning Elizabeth and Jack together on the island that he left Jack on before. And then it showed like Elizabeth and Jack were just kind of stranded on there, and at first they really were not too fond of each other considering what Jack had done to Elizabeth before, but they then eventually like did like become like better with each other. And then later on Elizabeth then just set out a smoke signal, and then yeah, the Dauntless, this crew with Norrington, ended up coming to the island, and they saved Elizabeth. And yeah, they of course like placed arrested Jack again, but then Elizabeth just asked Norrington to return for Will, and at first Norrington was like kind of resistant to it. At first he was refusing to go back for Will, but then he was convinced to do it once Elizabeth like accepted his marriage proposal. And then yeah, the Dauntless then like tried to pursue the Black Pearl that night, right? And yeah, they had a plan for Jack to lure the pirates out, and the Dauntless would ambush the crew. But then like the Black Pearl crew just ended up like walking underwater, and they like launched a surprise attack on the Dauntless. And then yeah, with like the Black Pearl like in the moonlight with the rotting corpses again, yeah, they did like battle with the Dauntless, and it was a really awesome fight, right, and battle. But eventually Elizabeth ended up escaping the Dauntless, and then she freed Jack's crew from the Black Pearl. And yeah, they really like were in like they refused to go after Will and save him. So then Elizabeth went out on her own, as the all of Jack's crew took on the Black. They ended up like commandeering the Black Pearl and fled from the scene. Yeah. And then, like, later on, then Jack ended up, like, freeing Will. And then Jack ended up, like, dueling with Barbosa. And then it was showing that Elizabeth and Will were helping to fight off the Black Pearl crew. And then at one point, finally, Barbosa ended up, like, stabbing Jack in the chest, but it was then shown that Jack was also under the curse the Black Pearl was under also, since he ended up, like, taking one of the gold pieces from the Cortez chest, too. And then, like, Jack then just revealed that the deception to him to win back the pearl, yeah. And eventually, Jack had Barbosa at gunpoint, but then Barbosa also, like, had Elizabeth at gunpoint, right? But then, like, Jack ended up, like, firing a shot at Barbosa, and, yeah, Barbosa just was, like, didn't think that he was harmed by that at first, since he thought he was under the curse, but then it showed then Will dropped the medallion into the chest, and, yeah, his blood was on the medallion, so then, yeah, that ended up, like, lifting the curse, and then, yeah, it just then showed Barbosa just collapsed and died. Yeah. And then, yeah, it was also revealed that the rest of the crew, like, realized that they weren't immortal either, and then they ended up, like, surrendering and ended up being captured and arrested. Yeah. And Jack was taken back to Port Royal, and, yeah, he was being set up to be hanged, but then, like, during the hanging ceremony, like, Elizabeth, like, was, like, distracting Norrington, and then, like, Will tried to, like, save Jack. Like, it was actually, like, a really clever way. Like, he threw a sword, like, right under Jack's feet, and so Jack was able to, like, stand on the sword so he wouldn't, like, be hanging. Yeah. And then, yeah, Will eventually, like, ended up, like, releasing Jack from the rope, but, like, they ended up, like, being just surrounded and held at gunpoint. But, you know, Elizabeth then just stepped in and was just, like, announcing that she did love Will, and, yeah, like, it just, like, gave Jack time to end up just, like, escaping and just swimming away. And, yeah, and everyone, like, saw that, and they were like, asking Norrington what they should do, and then, yeah, Norrington just decided to give Jack a 1 day's head start before they start to chase him. And then, yeah, and then Governor Swan then just saw Will and Elizabeth were in love, and then he gave Elizabeth the blessing to marry Will, and so then, yeah, that got them together. And then Jack then swam to the Black Pearl, which was nearby, and then he boarded the Black Pearl, and then, yeah, it just showed then the Black Pearl was now under Jack's command, and, yeah, Jack then was now leading the Black Pearl, and then just showed the Black Pearl sailing off, and then, yeah, that's then the movie then cut to credits. It's after that, and then after the credits, it then showed, like, Barbosa's monkey ended up, like, taking a piece of gold from the chest, and then it showed, like, he regained immortality, and then, like, at the end of the next film, Dead Man's Chest, it was then shown that Barbosa ended up, like, being resurrected or something also, and that he was still alive. So, yeah, this would not be the last we would see of Barbosa, and, yeah, it would carry over to the other sequels. So, yeah. And that's how the movie ended. So, yeah, like I said, 3.75 stars out of 4. I mean, definitely a really great movie. I mean, yeah, sequels really are not some of Disney's best works, but this film, yeah, this film can have that honor. So, yeah, it definitely is a really great film, and, yeah, definitely, yeah, while it is definitely, like, not the greatest ever, it is still, like, a really great film. So, yeah, definitely check out this movie if you haven't seen it before. Alright, so yeah, that does it for my review of Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl. I hope you guys enjoyed this review. So, yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.